Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Michael Didier here, and we're continuing our journey through Torah. Gotta love the journey that Yehovah has brought us on. We've learned about him, who he is, what he cares about, what's important to him. And he's got some strong feelings about certain things. Well, we are in Deuteronomy. I'm looking at Hosea right now. Here is Deuteronomy. We want to go here. Start with Deuteronomy 1. We're actually doing Deuteronomy 3 today, but I want to do a review. When we left the Jordan, remember, we were in, not the Jordan, when we were in the wilderness of Sinai. Here it is on the map. You see Mount Sinai right here. Hormah, the rock at Hormah. Remember, that's where Moses hit the rock and it split open and gave water to us for almost a year. We left the wilderness of Sinai in the second year, second month, 20th day. And we went up along the Dead Sea and came to Kadesh Barnea. At Kadesh Barnea is where we sent out our spies, our 12 spies. And remember, they were gone for 40 days and 40 nights. And when they came back, all but two, Caleb and Yahushua, brought back a bad report. And it discouraged the people. It discouraged the people so much that they decided to head home. They complained to Moses, "You brought us in to kill us, our sons, our women. We're going back." And Yehovah heard that. I mean, think about this. These are the same men who were in Egypt. They saw the 10 plagues. They saw 3 days of darkness. They saw Passover and the firstborn sons of everyone in Egypt die if they didn't keep Passover. They saw the deliverance, their deliverance, after they ate the Passover, became Jehovah's servants, and then they got to leave. And they saw the Red Sea divide in two so they could cross. They saw manna come from heaven for 40, well, at that point, 1 year and a few months. It was fresh. They saw the rock bring forth water in the wilderness. It was a dry land. So here they are, saying Yehovah's brought us in to kill us. Can you understand why Yehovah would be angry? He was so angry, he says, "You're going to go and wander in the wilderness for 40 years, 1 year for every day that you spied out the land. And you, men, 600,000 men, Israelite, Ezra men, those who ate the Passover in Egypt, are going to die. And your sons, who you said are going to be killed, are going to take the land." So we heard that. What do? We said, "Oh, we'll go fight. But at that point, Yehovah wasn't going to go with us. We went anyway. We went up into this mountain right here. And they chased us back to Hormah right here. Hormah's not a city. Hormah's more of a place where they chased us like bees, it said. Back to Hormah. We got defeated. Jehovah said, I'm not going with you. Moses is not going with you. The tabernacle's not going to go with you. And you got chased away. So where we finished in chapter 1 was right here. Let me see if I can, want to click on it. So I can just go down to the bottom right here. So you remained in Kadesh. He's talking about Kadesh Barnea. Many days, according to the days you spent there. Last week, we started in chapter 2, going into the wilderness. It says, returned and journeyed into the wilderness by way of the Red Sea. Jehovah brought us back the way we came. By wilderness, by way of the Red Sea. Here we are, back in the Sinai, likely. And the next 2:1 through 2:7 is our 38 years in the wilderness. Where did we go? I think we went here, probably snuck our way up into this area, which would be kind of Midian territory. And we're going to see we probably went towards Esau. He told us we could buy some food, but we can't have any of their land. And we ended up in Elat and Ezen-Geber, this area again. Let me show you. Here it is. We ended up Ezen-Geber. So this is 40 years in the wilderness. But look at it. Here's what it says. For Jehovah, your Elohim, has blessed you in all the work of your hands. He knows you're trudging through the great wilderness these 40 years. And Jehovah, your Elohim, has been with you. You have lacked nothing. And we passed beyond your brother and Esau, descendants of Esau. Esau's seed is really what it says. Who dwell in Seir, away from the road of the plain, away from Elath and Ezen-Geber, and we turned and passed by the way of Moab. So here we're heading back up towards Moab. Moab dwells right here between Arnon and the Zebach or Zerad brook. That's where Moab is at this time in history. But before we went there, we went back to Kadesh Barnea. At Kadesh Barnea, chapter 20, this is where we leave the wilderness in 19, and we appear all of a sudden in Kadesh Barnea, and you hardly know that it's been 40 years or 38 years. And the first thing that happens is Miriam is going to die. 40th year, first month, first day of the month is when Miriam is going to die in Kadesh Barnea. We're back in the same spot that we started 38 years ago. 5 months from that, here in Mount Hor, see Obadiah? There's Mount Hor right there. That's where Aaron's going to die. And now we're getting ready to go into the promised land. And look what it says here. It says, now rise and cross over the valley of Zerah. So we crossed over the valley of Zerah. And at that time the time we took to come from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed over the valley of Zerah was 38 years. In other words, 38 years ago, we should have crossed over the book of Zerah. But because we're rebellious, it didn't happen. So now it's going to happen. I think I had a note on this. Yes, I got to show you my notes. I think I put it here. Here's Zerad, the brook. A brook or valley running into the Dead Sea near the southeast corner, which Dr. Robinson, I guess, person who I get this information from, with some probability suggests as identical to Wadi Ashash. I don't even know how to say it. It lays between Moab and Edom. and is the limit of the proper term of the Israelites wandering. Here, look at this is verse. This is well, here I'm going to read this. This is a Zerad. This is International Standard Bible Encyclopedia. This is Nakal, or the Torrent Valley, talking about Zerad, given at the place where Israel encamped before they reached the Arnon. We're going to talk about the Arnon in just a little bit. That was Numbers 21:12. This is Numbers 21:11. And they journeyed from Obat to Le Avarim in the wilderness, which is east of Moab, towards the rising of the sun. So here we are, Valley of Zerad. Let me go back to my map. See, I talked about Obat. Obat is really what it is. Kadesh Barnea, we went to Obat. Here's the Zerad Brook, and has to be the Zerad Valley, which we crossed over there, and we came up to Le Avarim. And that Le Avarim is what I just showed you in Numbers 20, verse 11. From there, we crossed over the Ar and went to Kedemot. At Kedemot, they call it the wilderness of Kedemot. At Kedemot, we sent messengers to Heshbon. You can just barely see. Let me zoom in a little bit more here and make it a little bit easier for you. 75. Here's Kedemot. Here's Heshbon. Heshbon is where Sihon, king of the Amorites, has his kingdom. He not going to let us pass through. We sent messengers asking us to pass through. We wanted to go to Jericho. And we said, we'll pay for whatever we eat. He was not going to let us go through. Now, he came out in force, and at this place, Yahaz, we fought. We beat him big time. And we took all the land from the Arnon River, right here, all the way up to the Jabbok, the Jabbok River. The Jabbok River, from here to here, is kind of the division between Sihon's land and Ammon's land. The Ammonites live here. Son of Lot. Took all that land. Let's see what it says. It says, this day you are to cross over at Ar, the boundary of Moab. So there's Ar, right here. Ar, the boundary of Moab, is the Arnon River. And we're going to go into they have some bunch of other things here. Rise, take your journey, and cross over the Arnon River. Look, I have given into your hands Sihon the Amorite, the king of Heshbon. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the nations. Remember, we got chased by those guys we were talking about, the bees, 40 years ago or 38 years ago. So here it says, I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemot. I should hit that. There we go. From the wilderness of Kedemot to Sihon, king of Heshbon. And it says that he came out and fought us. Sihon and all his people came out against us, and we fought at Yahaz. And it said, we took all his cities. It really says, and we destroyed all his cities, men and the women and the little ones of every city. We left none remaining. We took the livestock as plunder. In other battles, we took Midianite women, the virgins, as plunder also. Didn't do that for these guys. So we took all of Gilead. Here it is, from Aror, which is on the bank of the Arnon. That's the spot right here. Aror, bank of the Arnon. It says, as far as Gilead. I think Jabbok River is probably what we are doing, although there is some Gilead up here. Ramoth Gilead, Jabesh Gilead. Some maps have us taking it all the way to Jabesh Gilead. I got a hunch that maybe we stopped at the Jabbok River. That's my guess. And this was going to be, Gad and Reuben. Reuben's land was down below. Gad's was up above. So Reuben's land started at the Arnon River, and somewhere it divided in here, I think right around the top of the Dead Sea is where Gad's land began. And then the rest of this, except for a portion that we're going to see that goes up the valley here, is also going to be some of Gad's land. The rest of this is going to be Manasseh's land. We'll talk about that in just a second. Actually, we'll talk about that today when we go through that. So this is kind of where we left off last week. This is the campaign that was led against Sihon, king of the Amorites. Today, in number 3, we're going to talk about Og, king of Bashan, who's also an Amorite, but he's a giant. He's probably in excess of 12 feet. He was a big guy. And it says his son was even bigger than he was. So let's take a look at this today as we go through this. I'm trying to make this as interesting as I can. The more facts I can show you, the more I can make it real to you. And I think it will help you remember the things that we're talking about. It says, then we turned and went on the road to Bashan. Here we are. Here's the road to Bashan. We're talking about the King's Highway. We were coming up the road. We took care of all these guys, and we're going to come to Edrei. Edrei, I'm not sure this is where Edrei is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I tend to think it was probably a little bit further north, but this is where my map has it right now, so we'll stick there. It says, and Og, king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. What is Edrei? You know, if you find out some things about Edrei, it's really quite interesting. Let me show you some things. And I need to go where? I got to go to my notes first. Let's go to my notes. Here, right here. So the road we went up was the King's Highway. I just showed you that. Og, king of Bashan, is a giant. It says after he killed, this almost makes it sound like in Deuteronomy 4 that Moses killed Sihon and Og, king of Bashan, who dwelt at Asheroth in Edrei. Here's Edrei. Means mighty, strength. Let me just read this to you. I think it's very interesting. This comes from Easton. It says, one of the chief towns of the kingdom of Bashan. Here Og was defeated by the Israelites, and the strength of the Amorites broken. Here, this is Numbers 21. And they turned and went up by way of Bashan. So Og, king of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. Then Jehovah said to Moses, do not fear him, for I have delivered him into your hand, with all his people and his land. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon. So they defeated him and his sons and all his people until there was no survivors left him. And they took possession of his land. So it says, it subsequently belonged to Manasseh. This is going to be half the tribe of Manasseh's land. But look what it says. For a short time, apparently, and afterwards became an abode of bandits and outlaws. It has been identified with the modern Edrei, so Edrei became Edrei, which stands on a rocky promontory on the southwest edge of Liat. The Liat, really, it says Liat. The J says Yah. What they translate as an H is a Tav. Liat. And then it says the Argob. So the Liat is the Argob, one and the same, of the Hebrews, and the Trachonitis of the Greeks. The runes at Edrei are the most extensive in the Haran. I saw that in Haran. Look at this. So here is Edrei. Here is the Sea of Tiberias, Sea of Galilee, Gennesaret Sea. They have different names for it. But you can kind of see where it is in relation to Edrei. It's actually Edrei. Edrei is really how you say that. Look at, here is Damascus. So if you follow Damascus down, Edrei is kind of underneath it, maybe even just a little bit east of it. And of course, it is east of, I said east, a little bit west of Damascus, south and a pinch west. This is mainly east and a pinch south from the Gennesaret Sea, Sea of Galilee. But look what I found here. This is Haran. Haran. They just talked about Haran. This is obviously something that rises out of the plain, but the place that we're talking about, the Argob, the, what do they call it? The Argob, Liat. It says elevated about 20 feet above the plain. Well, that's like on this map. If you look at the legend, here's the legend. Look, the dark area is 4,000 feet. The light area is 2,000 feet. Well, that's way more than 20 feet above the plain. But remember this name, Selka. There's Haran. These are things that I just want you to remember, think about. Here is modern day. Let's see. Let's close this. Here is Alayat. Alayat. This is the same place. Layat. This whole area was called Layat. The Argob. I don't think it's an accident that this place is here. Now, this is a little bit higher than the Red Sea. And, oops, and I guess I can't do it like that. Oh, there it is, Damascus. There's Layat. There's Damascus. It's east of the city. So on our other map, we're talking about more in this area. And now we're talking about something that is south and a little bit east. And this is east and a little bit north of the Gennesaret. Lots to think about. What are we looking at? Let's talk about this place because this gives a nice description of this. Let me go back. Lost my spot. Here we are. Okay, we're talking about the Argob. The ruins of the Edrei are the most extensive in the Haran. So I'm just showing you the Haran. Now, maybe the Haran is closer. Maybe they're calling that bump, the mountains, really, 4,000 feet, hills in the wilderness there. Maybe they're calling that Haran, and they just maybe mislabeled it. Here it says they are 3 miles in circumference. This is around the city of the ruins of Edrei are the most extensive. They are 3 miles, the ruins are, in circumference. A number of the ancient houses still remain. The walls, roofs, and doors being built all of stone. The wild region of which Edrei was the capital is thus described in modern aspects, elevated 20 feet above the plain. They say 20 feet. It's a labyrinth of cliffs, crevices in the volcanic rock formed by volcanic action. And owing to its impenetrable condition, it has become the refuge of outlaws and turbulent characters who make it a sort of cave of Adullam. Remember, if you look at Samuel, that's the cave of Adullam, is where David took refuge from Saul, with kind of the refuge of the city. The poor, the people who have been taken advantage of, the poor that have been overtaxed, they came to be with David. So, like the cave, it is in fact an impregnable natural fortress. It says 20 miles in length, 15 miles in breadth. Beneath this wonderful city, there is also a subterranean city, hollowed out probably as a refuge for the population and the upper city in times of danger. Was this a dam? Was this an ancient dam that was put together by the giants? Look, we're talking about Amalekites. These are sons of Canaan. Canaanites are who we're fighting right now. 13 families. Just thinking out loud. So, keep that in mind now. This said 20 feet. I'm sorry, it said 20 miles by 15 miles. So let's go to the next verse. And Jehovah said to me, do not fear, for I have delivered him and all his people. He's talking about Og, all his people and all his land into your hands. You shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon. So Jehovah our Elohim also delivered into our hands Og, king of Bashan, and all his people. And we attacked him until he had no survivors remaining. And all his cities, and we took all his cities at that time. There was not a city which we did not take from them. 60 cities, all of the Argob. So here we're talking about the Argob. What were you talking about there? Edrei is part of the Argob, which is part of, remember, the Argob is another name for the Layat. City of Layat, or the Argob was in synonymous with Layat, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. Here, I think I have. Yeah, here's Argob. Again, another note, same dictionary, but this is written by, or this is taken from another man, Porter's Giant Cities. A stony heap, an island. Remember, this was 20 feet high. Here it says, as it is called, an island, as it is called, of rock, about 30 miles by 20 miles. So it was 20 miles by 15 miles. Now it's 30 miles by 20 miles, rising 20 to 30 feet above the table of the land of Bashan, a region of crags, chasms, wild and rugged in the extreme. On this island stood a walled city ruled over by Og. It's called Trachonitis. The rugged region in the New Testament these cities were conquered by the Israelites. It is now called the Liat. Here, 60 walled cities, still traceable in a space of 308 miles. That is 30 by 20. It's got 60 cities in it. The architecture is ponderous and massive. Solid walls 4 feet thick, stone on one another without cement. The roofs, enormous slabs of balsamic rock, like iron. The doors and the gates are stone 18 inches thick, secured by ponderous bars. One says brass bars. The land bears still the appearance of having been called the land of the giants. So you could tell that giants lived here under giant Og. Now this is the man talking. He says this. He says, I have been there. I have more than once entered this deserted city in the evening, taken possession of a comfortable house and spent the night in peace. Many of the houses in this ancient city of Bashan are perfect, as if only finished yesterday. The walls are sound, the roofs unbroken, and even the window shutters in place. These ancient cities of Bashan probably contain the very oldest specimens of domestic architecture in the world. I would love to go and visit this place. I think I will sometime in the future, just to say that I've been there. I think it would be very interesting. Let's continue. All these cities were fortified with high gates, bars, besides a great many rural towns. Well, this is what we just read in these two commentaries. And it says, and we utterly destroyed them as we did Sihon, king of Heshbon. Now, in the Greek, it says this. I guess I'd have to go here to say it. But they're talking about the men, the women. We utterly destroying, and it says, of every city. It doesn't quite say that. Here's what it actually says. It says, we destroyed every city, men, the women, and the children. Here it is, men. It's got this mot. We talked about this last week. The men all in Sihon's kingdom, they all died too. The mot. Interesting name for these people. And I think the mem at the end of it changes it from man to men. I thought maybe it was their men, and I may have said their men last week, but I think it's just men. Men, the women. This says the women. It doesn't say and the women. And then it says and the children. So very, very similar to what we read last week in chapter 2. This is Numbers 21:33 through 35. And they turned and went by way of Bashan. So Og, king of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. Now this is Numbers. Then Jehovah said to Moses, do not fear him, for I have delivered him into your hand with all the people of the land. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon. So they defeated him, his sons, his people, until there was no survivors left in the land. Now here is Yasher. I want to read it from Yasher. And I already opened this up so we can see it. Here it is. Come on. There it is. It says, and Israel's seed turned and went by way of Bashan to the land of Og, king of Bashan. And Og, king of Bashan, went out to meet the Israelites to battle. And he had with him many valiant men and a very strong force from Ammonites' seed. Og, king of Bashan, was a very powerful man, but Naaran, His son was exceedingly powerful, even stronger than he was. Look at that. He's not even mentioned in Torah, except one of his sons. And Og said in his heart, behold, now the whole camp of Israel takes up a space of 3 parsads, whatever that is, 3 football fields, I don't know. Now I will smite them at once, without sword or spear. So Og went up to Mount Yahaz, don't know where that is, and took therefrom one large stone, the length of which was 3 parsa. And he placed it on his head, and resolved to throw it upon the camp of Israel's seed, to smite all the Israelites with the stone. And an angel of Jehovah came and pierced the stone upon his head, upon the head of Og. And the stone fell upon the neck of Og, and Og fell to the earth on account of the weight of the stone upon his neck. And Jehovah said, at that time, Jehovah said to Israel's seed, be not afraid of him, for I have given him and all his people and all his land into your hand, and you shall do to him as you did to Sihon. And Moses went down with him a small number of Israel's seed, and Moses smote Og with a stick at the ankles of his feet and slew him. He had a lock on his head, but somehow Moses killed him with the stick. I wondered if it was the rod of Elohim that he killed him with. Can't really think about how else you're going to kill somebody with a stick. Israel's seed afterward pursued Og's seed and all his people. So Og's seed are the people who are descendants of Og, and all his people, the other Amorites, and they beat and destroyed them till there was no remnant left of them. They killed everybody. This is son, men, the women, and the children. Here's the King James again. All right, 7. But all the livestock and the spoil, that would be the booty and the spoil, all the livestock and the spoil of the city we took as booty for ourselves. And at that time we took the land from the hand of the two kings of the Amorites, who were on this side of the Jordan, from the river Arnon to Mount Hermon. Here, let me show you. River Arnon to Mount Hermon. Here we are. Let me zoom out. 30, I think. Here is Arnon River. And up here is Mount Hermon. This is Mount Hermon, just below Damascus. But look at this. Here is Haran and Selka. Here's Edrei. Where's Edrei? Right in this area. You can barely see it. It's where my hand is. Or my pointer, whatever you see it as. I don't know what you see it as. Then they said, talking about Mount Hermon, the Sidonians call Hermon Sirion, and the Amorites called it Sinir. All the cities of the plain, all Gilead, and all Bashan, as far as Selka and Edrei. There's Selka and Edrei. Could it have come out this far? I don't know. This is roughly 30 by 20. This portion right here that they label as Haran with Kanat Noba. They don't talk about Kanat Noba at all. But that's about the right size, just kind of in the wrong place. But I wonder if that could be what we're talking about. As far as Selka and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og in Bashan. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the giants. His bedstead was an iron bedstead. Is it not in Rabbah of the people of Ammon? 9 cubits is its length. 4 cubits its width. Here it is right here. Here is, what did they just say that was in Rabbah? Rabbah. Where's Rabbah? It's kind of, here's Rabbah right here. Kind of hard to see. Let me zoom in again. Let's go back to 100. Yeah. Okay, here is Rabbah. Remember, that's the dividing line, the Jabbok River. So this is Ammon, but this is the chief city of Ammon, Rabbah. This is where the iron bed was, and that bed was 13 and a half feet by 6 feet. He was a big boy. And this land, which we possessed at this time from Aroer, which is by the river Arnon, and half the mountains of Gilead and its cities, I gave to the Reubenites. So half of the mountains of Gilead. So that makes sense if they stopped at the Jabbok River, because that would be about half the mountains of the cities of Gilead. I gave to the Reubenites and to the Canaanites. The rest of Gilead and all of Bashan, the king of Og, I gave to half the tribe of Manasseh. All the Argob with all Bashan was called the land of the giants. Now it says Yair. It doesn't say, it says the son of Manasseh. It doesn't say that. It says Yair, the son, or a son of Manasseh. It means he's got at least two. Took all the region of the Argob. So now we know what the Argob is. This is La Yat, as far as the border of the Girgashites and the Machathanites, and called Bashan after his own name, Havot Yair. Havot means hamlets, or what was it? Let's see. I think I've got it here. Hamlets of the Enlightener, a district east of Jordan. So hamlets is what that means. Havot Yair. To this day. Also, I have given Gilead to Machir. He's given Gilead to Machir. Who's Machir? He's another son. He's the oldest son. Look, this is a commentary that I pulled out. It says Machir means sold. Manasseh's oldest son. It says, or probably his only son. Well, that's not true, because we just saw that Yair is Manasseh's son also. But see, they say that because of Genesis, where it says Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation, the children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, who, here's the son of Manasseh, that's Machir. We're talking about Machir right now in this note. Machir, the son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. So he had more than just two sons. They said, or probably his own son. No, that's wrong. Let's go to 16. And to the Reubenites and the Gadites I gave from Gilead as far as the Arnon River, the middle of the river, as the border of the river, as far as the river Jabbok, the border of the people of Ammon. Now, to understand that, they're talking about from this river, Arnon River, all the way up to the Jabbok, the border of Ammon. Now, this is not Ammon, but this is Ammon on this side of this portion of the river. And then we're going to see that they're going to get all the plain of the Jordan all the way up to the Gennesaret, the Sea of Galilee, the Sea of Tiberias. It's got lots of names, like I say. So they got a finger that's going to go all the way up there. Let's see. And the Reubenites and the Gadites, I gave Gilead as far as the river Arnon, in the middle of the river at the border, as far as the river Jabbok, the border of the people of Ammon. The plain also, there's the plain. The plain. This plain is where the river is, with the Jordan as the border from Gennesaret. So now they're calling the sea Gennesaret, as far as the Sea of Arabah, which is the Salt Sea. So they're getting all this land that's along the river is going to go to Reuben and Gad. The Salt Sea. Behold the slopes of Pisgah. I wish I hadn't done that. Behold the slopes of Pisgah. Then I commanded you at that time, saying, Yehovah, your Elohim, has given you this land to possess. All the men of Valor. This is not how it says it in Hebrew. Shall cross over armed. This is Valor's seed, if you will, or mighty seed. He's talking about who? He's talking about Reuben and Gad here. Yeah, he's just finished. And to Reuben and the Gadites and the Gidites, to the Reubenites and the Gadites, I gave Gilead as far as so now he says this. And I commanded you, I'm reading on the right, Gad, Reuben, Manasseh, that's who he's talking about, at that time, saying, Yehovah your Elohim has given you this land to possess it. Ye shall pass over armed before your brethren. This is how it actually reads in the Hebrew. You shall pass over armed before your brethren, Israel's seed, all ye mighty men. This is Bnei Kayil. Bnei Kayil. This is a really interesting, it's called what's the word? I'm drawing a blank. I had it this morning and I'm forgetting it. There's a specific kind of noun. You wouldn't think of it as being a person, place, or a thing until it actually does something. Then it makes it something like a noun. It's like faith. Faith is not thought of as a noun until you actually do something with it. So here is B'nai. B'nai. You don't have a B'nai unless you have a noun after it. B'nai Het, B'nai Adam, B'nai Israel. They all have something after it. This is B'nai Kayil. Wish I could remember what that was. Sorry, I just can't come up with it right offhand. I'll probably get it before this is over. Here's Young's little translation. Kind of gets it the same way. All you sons of might. They call them sons of might instead of mighty seed, ye mighty seed. But that's who we're talking about. Mighty seed is the people who are going to go out ahead of us to lead our brethren as we claim their land. That's what they're talking about. He says, but your wives, is that word? Is there a word wives in Torah? No. But your women, see, there's no word for wife in Torah. There's no word for husband in Torah. A husband is her Baal, her Adon. A woman is his woman. That's what a wife is. But they translated his wife, and his woman could be a servant, his woman could be a concubine, his woman could be lots of things. Women. They're his women, but they translated his wife. But your women, your little ones, your tough, and all your livestock, I know that you have much livestock, shall stay in your cities, which I have given you. So they wanted to stay originally. Hey, go ahead. We got our land. And all of a sudden, Moses said, no, that's not going to cut it. You got to help us get our land now. They helped you get your land. You got to help them get their land. Then you get to come back to your families. Until Jehovah has given the rest to your brethren as to you, and they also possess the land which Jehovah your Elohim is giving them beyond the Jordan, that each of you may return to his possessions which I have given you. And I commanded Yahushua at that time, saying, your eyes have seen all that Yehovah your Elohim has done to these two kings. So will Yehovah do to all the kingdoms throughout through which you pass. He's given him a promise. What Jehovah says, Jehovah does. You must not fear them, for Jehovah, your Elohim himself, fights for you. Now look at this. This is Moses. Then I pleaded with Jehovah at that time, saying, Adonai, Jehovah, thou hast begun to show thy servant thy greatness and thy mighty hand. For what Elohim is there in heaven or on earth who can do anything like thy works and thy mighty deeds? He goes on, I pray, let me cross over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, those pleasant mountains and Lebanon. Well, what do you think Jehovah's going to say about that? He's already told him multiple times that he's going to die. And here he is again, let me cross over. But Jehovah was angry with me. He says, on account of you. He's talking to Israel's seed, saying that Jehovah's angry at Moses on account of them. No, Jehovah's angry at Moses on account of what he did at the rock at Meribah. When he hit the rock, instead of talking to the rock, speaking to the rock. He says, enough of that. Speak no more to me of this. Now he says, go up to top of Mount Pisgah. Lift up thy eyes toward the west, the north, the south, the east. Behold it with thy eyes, for thou shalt not cross over the Jordan. But command Yahushua and encourage him and strengthen him, for he shall go before this people, and he shall cause them to inherit the land which thou wilt see. So we stayed in the valley opposite Beth Peor. Here we are. This is the house of Peor. Probably we tore that place down, I would guess. Here it is right here. This is Beth Baal Peor. Remember, this is an Elohim, lawmaker and judge. He may be an Elohim, may be a god, but he's certainly a lawmaker and judge. And remember, we first fought the Midianites because of what our men did, where women were out tantalizing our guys, encouraging them to come to them, eat things sacrificed to Baal Peor, Lord Peor, Lord Jesus. We have a Lord Jesus now. We don't have a Lord Peor that we substitute for Yehovah. But you're going to see next week, we're going to talk about Yehovah, your Elohim. 16 times it's going to say Yehovah, your Elohim. Not Baal Peor, your Elohim, Lord Peor, not the Lord Jesus. No, we've learned lies. Jehovah doesn't change. His word endures forever. What he said, he's going to do. And we're going to see more of that next week. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. These first 3 chapters of Deuteronomy have kind of been a history lesson. Some is good, some is bad. It's not quite accurate on some levels. We've seen those, and I've corrected some of those for you. But we're going to go on next week, and we're going to talk about the mighty Elohim. What great, we'll talk about, I don't want to say, I don't want to spoil it right now. Come back again. If you enjoyed this, I'm trying to make it real for you. If you enjoyed it, please like it. Please share it with others. I sure appreciate you stopping today. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye now.